All right. Thank you. You heard from, I won't repeat what I said at the beginning about Peacekeepers Day. I think I flagged to you all the events. Just to say that our Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed is in Dushanbe in Tajikistan, as we told you. She's attending the first high-level conference on glacier preservation. She's doing that on behalf of the Secretary General. In the morning, the Deputy Secretary General traveled to observe firsthand the impact of climate change on Tajikistan's glaciers. She commended international efforts to protect glaciers ahead of COP30, noting their critical role in safeguarding water sources, ecosystems, and communities. In this context, she said the Early Warning for All initiative is key to strengthening climate resilience and helping vulnerable populations prepare for climate-related shocks. Also today, she met with the president of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahman, as well as Sirojdin Muhirdin, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the country. She acknowledged Tajikistan's progress on the Sustainable Development Goals and its leadership in advancing global climate, water, and glacier preservation agenda, rooted in cooperation and multilateralism. Tomorrow, the Deputy Secretary General will participate in the opening session of the International Conference on Glacier Preservation. Turning to the Gaza Strip, our humanitarian country team for the occupied Palestinian territory issued a statement warning that the new militarized distribution system does not meet the needs of people in Gaza. It puts them at risk and runs contrary to humanitarian principles. The humanitarian country team, which brings together UN agencies and NGOs, stressed that the Israeli authorities have undermined the capacity of our own teams on the ground to deliver genuine humanitarian assistance that would reach the most vulnerable groups. Despite these challenges, our teams continue to deliver aid where possible. Once again, they reiterated that fundamental humanitarian principles are non-negotiable. On the ground, our colleagues at OCHA warned that airstrikes and other attacks continue across the Gaza Strip. There are reports of scores of people were killed and hundreds injured over the past 24 hours, including children and other civilians. Earlier today, as attacks intensified, Israeli authorities ordered the medical team at Al-Auda Hospital in North Gaza to evacuate. Efforts are ongoing to move the patients and the medical staff. Al-Auda Hospital is the only remaining partially functioning hospital in North Gaza. The facility is currently overwhelmed with injuries and critically low on supplies. Despite intense insecurity, the World Health Organization and its partners reached the hospital twice in the past week to assess the situation and transfer 57 critical patients to Al-Shifa Hospital. WHO tells us that during the first mission, the team was exposed to nearby airstrikes, shelling, and gunfire. And yesterday in Khan Yunis, the Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that Red Cross Field Hospital in Al-Mawasi was hit, causing injuries and spreading fear amongst patients. On the entry of supplies into Gaza, our OCHA tells us that we continue to send to Karim Shalom many supplies. Yesterday, these included flour, ingredients for community kitchens, and medical items. However, as we mentioned to you yesterday, our efforts to collect cargo from the crossing was denied by the Israeli authorities. We hope to have an update later today if there's positive news to report. The quantity of supplies allowed into Gaza is just a trickle of aid required to meet the immense needs of 2.1 million people at a time when populations across the Strip continue to be at risk of famine. And since you've been asking, I can tell you in the past 10 days, since Karim Shalom reopened, of the nearly 900 trucks approved to enter, almost 600 have been offloaded on the Gaza side of the Karim Shalom crossing, but have not yet been distributed into Gaza itself. They've not reached our warehouses due to the security constraints we've been telling you about. The World Food Program also tells us that hungry people broke into WFP's Al-Khafari warehouse in Deir al-Bala in central Gaza yesterday. They were clearly in search of food supplies that had been pre-positioned there for distribution. Initial reports indicate that 2 people died and several were injured in the tragic incident. WFP is still confirming the details of what happened. And in the West Bank, OCHA tells us that demolitions and the threat of demolitions of Palestinian property in the context of Israeli forces operations in northern areas continue unabated. Today, demolition operations continue in Noor Sham's refugee camp in Tulkarm City, where Israeli forces have been active since May 5th. And as of yesterday, nearly 50 residential units marked for demolition at the start of the month had already been destroyed. Residents were briefly allowed to enter the camp to collect personal items. Our humanitarian colleagues on the ground warn that these operations are sweeping in scale, marked by mass forced displacement and the extensive destruction of Palestinian property and humanitarian infrastructure, and further fueling needs of affected communities. And we have been asked about our position concerning the recent announcement by Israel of new settlements in the occupied West Bank. And I just want to remind you that the Secretary General has repeatedly called on Israel to cease all settlement activities in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. Such settlements are illegal and they're an obstacle to peace and economic and social development. On Yemen, I think you, Edie, had asked us about Hudaida, and I can tell you that our humanitarian colleagues inform us that reported multiple attacks recently on the ports of Hudaida in Yemen have indeed reduced their capacities. These ports are vital for bringing in commercial imports, including food and medicine, as well as humanitarian supplies into the country. And any potential reduction in port capacity and constraints on pipeline of food, fuel, or medicine are extremely concerning, particularly at a time when 19.5 million people in Yemen need humanitarian assistance and rely on these lifelines for survival. As you know, the Secretary General has repeatedly appealed for de-escalation, for respect of international humanitarian law, including the protection of civilians and the infrastructure they rely on for their basic needs. Moving to Sudan, I've also been asked about the cholera outbreak in the country and our coordinated efforts to address the multiple aspects of this disease, including prevention, treatment, and control. I can tell you that the cholera vaccinations began Tuesday of this week in Jebel Aulia, the hardest hit locality in Khartoum. This is happening with our support and the help of our partners on the ground. The World Health Organization has also delivered more than 22 metric tons of cholera and emergency health supplies to respond to local efforts. Cholera cases, as I mentioned yesterday, are surging in Khartoum State, posing a grave threat to children. WHO attributed the spike to damaged water infrastructure, the movement of people, and the lack of safe water. On top of that, our partners are warning of mounting pressure on already overstretched health system in Khartoum. UNICEF, for its part, is implementing a multi-pronged cholera response in the Sudanese capital, focusing on high-risk communities and critical water infrastructure. These include providing water treatment chemicals and the delivery of a generator to sustain operations at Al Manara water treatment plant, which serves more than 1 million people in the area. In neighboring River Nile State, health authorities have reported over 90 cholera cases and 3 deaths in the past 2 weeks, many linked to people who are fleeing Khartoum. We and our partners are responding with supplies, vaccines, rapid response teams, and supporting the National Cholera Plan, but we need safe access and urgent funding to save lives. Meanwhile, OCHA tells us that needs there in Sudan continue to grow, driven by the continued displacement of the ongoing conflict. Due to the ongoing conflict, North Darfur State, IOM, reports that conflict has forced some 1,400 people to flee Abu Shuk camp in El Fasher town over the past week. Most have sought refuge within El Fasher, while others have moved to the localities of Tawila and Kutum in the state. In South Darfur State, local authorities report that 60,000 displaced human beings in the capital, Nyala, urgently need assistance. Many are sheltering in public buildings. Others have no other choice but to sleep in the open. OCHA is coordinating with partners to determine the most effective response. And we continue to call on all our parties to facilitate the vital work of humanitarian workers on the ground, safe and sustained access, and we continue to urge donors to step up support for aid operations in Sudan. Sherwin, you had asked our Undersecretary General about peacekeeping in the DRC. I can give you a bit of updates on that. Our peacekeeping colleagues there tell us they supported the country's armed forces yesterday in the province of Ituri during a joint operation conducted by a locality believed to be a stronghold of the Zaire armed group. The mission's intervention came in response to armed clashes near a market in Fataki, which triggered panic and led civilians to flee. To help stabilize the area and ensure civilian protection, peacekeepers established a mobile operating base there yesterday. Joint patrols with the Congolese army were carried out around the market, in nearby displacement camps, and along a route to a local bridge, as the clashes had also disrupted traffic on major roads. No civilian casualties were reported, and the armed group has since retreated. Meanwhile, the UN peacekeeping mission and the National Disarmament, Demobilization, Reintegration, and Stabilization Program launched community reinsertion projects for over 1,000 former combatants from the Zaire armed group. That was done earlier this week. Over the next 6 months, these ex-combatants will be enrolled in income-generating activities and training. They will conduct local dialogue and also receive psychosocial support to help them gain sustainable livelihoods. Members of their communities and youth at risk will also join the project to improve social cohesion and reduce, as well as prevent, community violence. And on the humanitarian end, our OCHA colleagues in the DRC warn that sexual violence is on the rise in the eastern part of the country. Across the DRC, our humanitarian partners have reported over 67,000 cases of gender-based violence between January and April of this year alone. This represents a 38% increase compared to the same period last year. Only 58% of the victims of the documented cases received appropriate medical care within the critical 72-hour time frame. More than 90% of the reported cases nationwide are in conflict-affected eastern provinces, where the response is further hindered by insecurity and aid cuts. According to our partners working in several health facilities in South Kivu province are facing shortages of the post-exposure kits, mainly due to security concerns. In addition, several of our partners involved in gender-based violence in South Kivu have closed their programs in March due to aid cuts. In South Kivu's Uvira territory alone, local authorities have documented over 100 cases of sexual violence from February to April, with more reported in May. This afternoon at 3 p.m., the Security Council will meet in an open meeting to discuss Ukraine. Under-Secretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Rosemary DiCarlo, will brief the Security Council, as well as Lisa Doughton, the Director of Finance and Partnership in the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And just to read into the record that yesterday afternoon we issued a statement in which the Secretary General extended his warm congratulations to the people of West Africa on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Economic Community of West African States, better known to all of us as ECOWAS. The Secretary General noted that in the past 5 decades, ECOWAS has played a vital role in advancing economic cooperation and regional integration and peace and stability in this rich and vibrant region. All of that is posted on the website. Edith Lederer, and then Michelle.
Thank you, Steph. Going back to Gaza, I just wanted to confirm that 600 of the 900 trucks are on the Gaza side in Kerem Sholem, and that none have actually been able to reach warehouses or the people because of the insecurity and violence on the roads. And if that is true, what kind of discussions are taking place between the United Nations and the Israeli government?
The discussions continue to take place to convince the Israelis to facilitate our ability to pick up these goods. As we mentioned yesterday, 6 of our requested missions permission to move humanitarian convoys were turned down by the Israelis. We need their clearance to go get the material. We need their clearance to go back, and we need And we also need to accept that the route that they've cleared for us, that they've given us a green light for, is not one where we feel it is unsafe for the cargo and our colleagues to travel on.
So
Yeah,
these talks have been going on for several days.
Well, these talks are ongoing. I mean, we coordinate through COGAT, which is a coordinator for the Government Coordinating Office. I mean, we are in constant touch with them. It's not a matter of organizing formal talks.
Has there been any offer from the Israelis of an alternative route that would be safer?
Well, the last time that we managed to get goods in, it was we found a route that we both agreed on, right? The problem is that the insecurity continues, and frankly, they are not making it easy for us to deliver humanitarian goods. Michelle Nichols, Reuters.
Sorry to harp on this, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, so we want to make sure we get this right. So yesterday, the UN was not able to collect any aid at all from Kerem Shalom.
That is correct.
To deliver within Gaza because Israel denied all attempts.
That's correct.
So when was the last time that the UN was able to collect aid from Kerem Shalom and deliver it to warehouses?
To our warehouses, it was about 3 days ago when I mentioned it at the briefing.
And so the other 2 days, apart from yesterday, the prior 2 days?
Nothing has moved. So more trucks can come into the Kerem Shalom holding zone, whatever term you want to use, but we've not received the necessary clearances to pick them up.
So yesterday you're saying it was because Israel denied any movements. The prior 2 days, was it again because Israel denied any movements?
That's correct.
So Israel has denied the UN from collecting any aid from Kerem Shalom for the past 3 days?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Deji, then Amélie, and then Lenka. I see you don't need it. You're doing the wave, but I see you.
A further clarification. So Israel denied the efforts to pick up all the trucks because of security issues. They
denied it. I mean, I think you have to ask them. I can't speak for them.
So they didn't really explain the reason.
I think the point is they were denied. Right?
Okay, Steph, you said that, I quote, "Our efforts to collect cargo from the crossing was denied by Israeli authorities." Yesterday, Ambassador Danoon was there, said, "UN, do your job, pick up your trucks."
Listen, as I told you yesterday, the best way to clear this up is for them to allow journalists to go wherever they want to go into Gaza. We are doing our job, right? We're doing our job by continuously doing whatever we can to try to get to those goods, right? We're continuing to do our job every single day.
Right. One last thing. It seems that there might be a U.S.-backed ceasefire deal that shows promising with both Hamas and Israel. Has UN been informed? As I understand, the UN is not part of that. But has UN been informed by any of these parties?
We continue to be in touch with the various parties. Amélie, and then we'll go back to Michelle. Amélie is much nicer than I am.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Israel denied all attempts. What happened today?
No, so far, the days, things move past noon, so I don't want to give you a definitive answer of what's happened today until the end of the day.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
I have short-term memory problems, so I'm focused on what I've said today. You can go back to what I said in the transcript earlier in the week. You're asking too much of my brain.
On the West Bank, the announcement from Israel today seems to be a major expansion of the settlement. I know you reminded us of previous mention from the Secretary General, but what does that mean for the prospect of the two-state solution and the viable Palestinian state?
I think, from what I read in the media, the announcement of these expanded settlements, the reasoning was stated publicly that it was to stall the creation of a Palestinian state. So this moves us in the wrong direction towards a two-state solution. You can ask whatever topic you want, Sherwin.
I mean, the Secretary General's statements on settlement expansion have been consistent over the years.
Yeah.
It's illegal in
Yeah.
terms of international law. It undermines the two-state solution, which is on life support. Is it not time to condemn the actions of the Israeli government that just seems to ignore the prescripts
I mean,
of
I think our
international
language has been
organizations?
very clear that we stand against any and all expansion settlement.
Who should stop Israel? Because it's
It's not a-
undermining the two-state solution.
Look, I think
there's a
they
big
are
conference.
they
let
are
me
they,
finish.
they
There's a
are
big conference
they,
next
they are
month.
they are countries and member states that have an influence over Israel. They're countries and member states that have influence over other parties. Everyone should use whatever the influence they have to push the parties towards the two-state solution. And I think as for the upcoming conference, I think Sigrid Kaag was very eloquent yesterday in what we all hope to expect out of this conference. Lenka.
Thank you, Stéphane. Humanitarian coordinator Tom Fletcher is now in Moscow, and he should meet with Foreign Minister Lavrov on June 2nd. What the Secretary General would like to see as a point of the discussion and possible results of the conversation? And one more question, if I may, please. You said you will double-check whether the UN has been invited to the peace talks on June 2nd on Ukraine.
Yes, I don't have any update for you on that.
Okay.
Listen, Mr. Fletcher constantly visits a number of countries. Obviously, the Russian Federation is an important partner of the United Nations, and I'm sure he will have very productive talks with Mr. Lavrov. Speaking of productive talks, Mike.
Number one, you mentioned at the top, let me make sure I'm quoting you correctly here, that the efforts by the GHF are undermining the UN's capacity. I asked this question before, I got kind of a generality. Can you give specific examples of how that is, how they're undermining the UN's capacity?
First of all, I think what would be most productive in our eyes is that the Israeli government's capacity to support humanitarian distribution be done. What I was saying is I think we feel that the resources and the focus that the Israeli security services, the Israeli government is doing on facilitating the GHF would be better use facilitating and supporting the work of the United Nations and our partners, which has a proven track record of effective aid distribution in Gaza, which we've been doing for a long time. We also feel that the work that the GHF has been doing has been putting the lives of Palestinians at risk, and I would refer you to the rest of the statement from our humanitarian colleagues.
So a follow-up to that then, the WFP warehouse that was looted, I'm trying to understand, was that aid being held for later delivery somewhere, and if so, where and when?
The most effective way to get food to people who need it is to do the community distribution, which is we've been doing. The flour had recently gotten there. It was part of the effort of WFP to repackage it and distribute it to households, which they've been able to do, and to community kitchens. The fact that it was looted, it was a sign of the desperation of people who don't know when the next aid truck will come in. Can't see who it is. All right. Deji, you go.
Okay, follow-up of Mike's question. Yesterday, Ambassador Nunes said that the UN is using threat, intimidation, and retaliation against NGOs that choose to participate in that fund.
When was the last time we threatened anybody?
So you denied it, right?
We're not in the business of threatening people. I mean, when did You'll understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to go any further. We're not a threatening organization. Unfortunately, sometimes. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Steph. Just a point of clarification on the attempt on getting aid into Gaza. Israel's denied you guys. Have they given you a reason?
Again, I think I can't speak for them. So
But they
we
didn't-
asked for
did they
permission.
provide
We'd
you
asked for
guys with-
permission yesterday for 6 missions. One of them was going to move trucks to Karim Shalom. It was denied.
And they didn't provide you
I
with
don't
reason?
have exactly what the wording is, but the point is that the answer was no, and no is no.
Okay, and then on the Al-Awada hospital critical patients that are being transferred to Al-Shifa, can you give us a little bit more detail on how you guys are transferring them and what kind of obstacles the medics are facing transferring the patients?
Listen, you'd have to ask WHO, but I don't have that sort of granularity, but the transfers are done by road, and they also have to be done and coordinated with the Israeli security services, given where these hospitals are.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you all. See you very soon.